So one of the Pilates moves in the repertoire is called spine stretch forward. How do you do spine stretch forward? So if you're totally new to this and never done spine stretch forward before, this is a good place to begin. So you can use a towel or a rolled up blanket. If you find you sit in a rounded position, if you've got a lower back that's quite flat, you don't have much of a curve there, such as mine, you tend to sit a little bit tucked under and more on the back of your sit bones and on your tailbone. So you could always sit on the front, not on the whole thing, but on the front of a rolled up towel or a blanket. And that will help your pelvis tilt so you're in a position where you're on your sit bones and not sitting back like that, which makes it really hard because then your head goes forward and then you can't really move from there. So when you sit on something like this, like a rolled up blanket, it helps you tilt your pelvis, which helps organise the spine and where the spine's going to be and where your head's going to sit, where your shoulders rest. So we're going to start with the knees bent, and if that's really uncomfortable, then your legs can be out straight, because ultimately that's where we're going to be with our legs out straight. If the leg straight makes you do that, then bend your knees, yes? You can see how different, for me, it makes things a whole lot easier if I bend my knees. So this is all about trying to think about what the actual final move looks like and worrying about, oh, but if I bend my knees, it's not actually, I should be here, so I'm not doing it right, I must do it this way, and then force myself. So let's make it a little bit more easier and comfortable on yourself, so you don't judge yourself or you don't shout at yourself and have a go at yourself. Because the more you try and push yourself into a position where you're not quite ready to be in, then the tighter you're going to be. It will change your breathing, you might hold your breath, you might clench your jaw, you might tighten up your pelvic floor, and things could get a lot worse. So kind of regress to progress, and don't feel ashamed about doing that. I think there's too much emphasis on, oh, it must look like this or it should be this, and that's where a lot of injuries come from. So let's begin with the knees bent, yes? Unless you feel comfortable with the legs straight. So I'm going to put the hands here on the floor and lengthening up. So think about where your sit bones are, and if you had a line drawn between the right and left sit bone, and there was a little dot in the middle, and that little dot grew your spine. Like a little seed was growing out through your spine, like a beanstalk, and that is your spine lengthening out through the crown of your head. So you can imagine, you can actually practice this up against a wall, as long as your wall is straight, otherwise you're going to feel a bit wonky. And then you can drop your chin down towards your chest and just do some little head nods, as if your nose is just going up and down, as if you're saying, yeah, I really like this spine stretch forward. It's not everyone's favourite exercise. And anytime you feel that you're becoming tight around the hips or your shoulders, then please take a break. Yes, you take a break when you need to, not when I tell you to. So you don't have to follow everything that I'm doing here. So what I'm going to do now is, if I was up against that straight wall, I would feel that the back of my head's coming off the wall, and then you start to feel, you have your sense here in the back of your spine, and as you start to feel that, you start to roll forwards, as if your forehead is going towards your knees and your fingertips are going towards the front of the mat. So don't be in such a rush to get there. So it's not like, oh, I'm trying to get there. It's a gentle and slow and steady movement, and you feel that as you do that, your back starts to come off the wall behind you, and then you start to put your back up against the wall and you roll yourself back up. Now it's not a straight forwards and backwards, there is an advanced move that does that, but before we kind of get to that stage, can you just be aware that you're not holding your breath or clenching your jaw, and if you are, then can you do it with less effort? So dropping the head as if your forehead's going towards your knees and your fingertips reaching forwards as far as you feel you can go, and then you come back up. Now as you come back up, think about where your lower rib cage is at the front and the back. Can the front of your lower ribs feel as if they're being pulled towards the wall behind you, as if you've got a bit of thread going through the lower ribs and your lower chest bone, and that is pulling back, pulling you back. See if you can imagine that, you start to feel, oh yeah, that vertebrae can come back, and then this one, and then this one, as if you're restacking the vertebrae, like you're going up a ladder. Okay, coming up a ladder, and then you're going down the ladder, and then you're coming up the ladder, and then you're going down the ladder. And then you can progress there from the hands coming forward So the hands being on the legs, and you start to lengthen forward and then come back. So it can be a tiny, tiny move until you feel what's happening here, this folding and this lengthening here from the top of your chest, from your chest bones. Even though you're folding downwards, you're lengthening at the same time. So you're kind of doing this spine stretch forward. And if the legs are out straight, it would look like that. So you might think, well, I'm not doing very much. I should be going all the way out here. I should be down there. You'll get there. Just take your time and practice and have your sense in your spine. Because we get, especially since the pandemic, we've all sat a lot more. Probably put on a little bit of weight. I know that I've been sitting around doing a lot of Zoom stuff and probably eating more than I should be, watching more movies, not moving as much. I'm only human. So you'll be getting into this habit of sitting in a sofa or sitting in a chair, and you become that position. So this becomes normal, this rounded posture, because you just don't see it, because your brain thinks, oh, well, you spend most of your time like that, it must be okay. So we're trying to come out of that and lengthen out of your sit bones. So it's going to feel a bit weird at first. You're going to feel, oh, I should be doing, there you go, there, I'll get further. But then your head's coming forward, you'll be tightening up your neck, and you'll be tightening up your chest here, and your pecs here will be tighter, and your hips will be tighter. So can you start from this lengthened position? And sometimes this is all where you need to start from, and all you might need to be for a while is just being here. And then you can start to nod the head and feel that you can lengthen forward. Yeah. And could you do that on your hands? Could you do it on your hands? Could you do it on your legs? Hands on the legs. Could you lengthen forward from there? And knees, don't forget, can be soft. And that is the spine stretch forward. So just take it slowly. And if you feel that your legs are really don't want to do that, and you want to sit on a chair, or you want to sit on your bed, or sit on the sofa, then practice doing that. You can imagine you're up against a straight wall, or you could cross your legs, and then you can feel that you could just come forward. And then come back. It's so much easier, yeah, without the legs being out straight. And you're just feeling that sense, sensing your spine, feeling that movement in your back, an awareness of your vertebrae and how you hold your head, how you hold your neck, how you organise that movement from the top down, and then how you come back up. So it's a good one to practice, it's a good one to have in the repertoire as well, in the method, to feel what's happening in your spine in the seated position. Happy practicing.